Kevin Stefanski walked up to the microphone and dropped the line no one thought he would. Shedeur Sanders will start. It wasn't just an announcement. It was a reversal of everything he had been saying since week one. Stefanski had spent weeks defending his choice to keep Sanders on the sideline. He said the rookie needed more time. He said it was about protecting him, about building for the long term. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. He leaned on phrases like developmental process and stability, insisting the veterans gave Cleveland its best chance to win right now. But the results told a different story. The veterans struggled to move the offense. The Browns opened the season 1-3. Turnovers piled up. The locker room grew restless. Every press conference turned into the same question on repeat. Why isn't Sanders starting? Stefanski's answers started sounding less like strategy and more like excuses. Eventually, the weight of those outcomes left him no ground to stand on. Naming Sanders a starter wasn't just a football decision. It was an admission that the plan had failed. The so-called safe options weren't safe at all. They cost the team games, momentum, and credibility. By reversing course, Stefanski did more than hand a rookie the ball. He conceded that the offense needed a spark only Sanders could provide. He acknowledged that holding him back had dragged the Browns in the wrong direction. And in that moment, his words carried more than strategy. They carried accountability. Now the Browns season resets. Built on the shoulders of a quarterback they should have trusted from the start. Let's talk about what this means, not just for Cleveland, but for the NFL as a whole. Because what we're witnessing isn't just a coaching decision. It's a philosophical shift. For decades, the NFL has treated young quarterbacks like fragile projects. Sit them, shelter them, hope they grow into the job. But Shedeur Sanders doesn't fit that mold. He's not waiting to be molded. He already shows up with a presence. And that's what made Cleveland's initial decision so baffling. They weren't just ignoring talent. They were ignoring momentum. And in this league, momentum is everything. So now we're at the crossroads. Stefanski finally blinked. But did he do it because he believes Shedeur is ready or because his job was on the line? Either way, the pressure is no longer on the rookie. It's on the coach who waited too long. Because if Shedeur saves the season, that won't be seen as Stefanski's strategy. It'll be seen as a correction of his biggest mistake. And if Shedeur doesn't, well, fans won't blame the rookie. They'll blame the man who wasted 4 weeks of momentum, fractured the locker room, and almost lost the fan base entirely. That's the gamble. And speaking of that locker room, let's not pretend they weren't watching all of this unfold. Reports have been flying for weeks. Players whispering, captains questioning, veterans starting to quietly back the rookie because they saw what the fans saw. The factor in practices, team meetings, sideline energy. Sanders acts like a QB1, and that matters because leadership in the NFL isn't about stats. It's about presence. There are guys who can throw a perfect spiral in practice and still lose the huddle by halftime. Then there are guys who command a room before the play is even called. Shedeur? He's the second kind. And now we get to see what happens when you finally take the leash off. Now let's get dramatic, because this moment deserves it. One snap. That's all it takes. One clean read. One beautiful throw. One third down conversion. That's all it'll take to flip the entire narrative. The crowd explodes. The energy changes. And suddenly, it's a new season, because in the NFL, hope is a currency. And Cleveland, they've been bankrupt for years. Until now, if Shedeur Sanders shines his first start, even flashes of what we saw at Colorado, it doesn't just salvage 2025. It rebrands the Browns overnight. Suddenly, they're not the sad team with the dusty trophy case. They're the team that finally got it right. The team with the young star, the modern offense, the swagger, the kind of team you circle on the calendar. But if it goes wrong, if the debut is shaky, then the spotlight swings right back to the coaching staff. And it won't be pretty, because fans won't forgive a failure that comes after a delay. That's the risk Stefanski took by waiting. Now Shedeur is not just playing for a win. He's playing for redemption. let's not forget what's truly on the line here. This is about more than just games. This is about culture. Cleveland is a city built on heartbreak, fumbled chances, missed kicks, worn-out jerseys with way too many QB names taped over on the back. But Shedeur represents the opposite. He's polished, confident, media-savvy, controlled, a complete rejection of the usual Browns chaos. That's why fans rally behind him before he even touched the field. He doesn't just look like the future. He looks like something they've never had before. And now they finally get to see it. So here's the real question. Is Shedeur Sanders the franchise savior Cleveland's been begging for since forever? Or is he just the latest victim of a system that still doesn't know how to recognize its own blessings? We're about to find out. And either way, it all starts with one snap. So what's your take, Browns Nation? Did Stefanski wait too long? Will Shedeur live up to the hype or rewrite it entirely? Drop your predictions in the comments. We know you've got thoughts. And if you want to ride this roller coaster with us week by week, subscribe, because this isn't just a quarterback controversy. This is Cleveland's reckoning. The announcement barely had time to make it across Twitter, sorry X, before Browns fans were marching like it was a civic parade. People outside the stadium holding signs that read, QB1 equals QB only in Lem Cook, Stefanski. Local radio, unhinged. Even national shows were ripping their usual schedules just to scream about a single quarterback decision in Cleveland. But let's be honest, it was never just about football. It was about faith. This team, this city, this fan base has been lied to, gaslit, and emotionally manipulated more times than any group of sports fans should legally endure. And here comes a kid, calm, confident, focused, who might actually have what it takes to break the cycle. So what do the Browns do? They bench him. For what? Stability? Experience? Flacco? Let's talk about that for a second. This team trotted out Joe Flacco like it was 2012, not 2025. And it showed. Overthrown passes, stalled drives, an offense that looked like it was written by a CPA trying to cosplay Sean McVay. Meanwhile, on the sidelines, Shedeur stood with his helmet in hand. Cool as ever, eyes locked in. You could see it. The hunger, the patience, the calculation. He was waiting, not nervously, strategically, because deep down he knew the meltdown was coming. And when it did, boom, fans revolted, players murmured, and Stefanski backed into a corner he built himself. Here's the part that's wild. It wasn't just a performance issue. It became a cultural war inside the building. Younger players were asking, why is Shedeur not starting? Why are we wasting drives? Why does the locker room feel like a funeral home every Monday? Leadership was fracturing, not because of one man, but because the one man who should have been leading the team wasn't being allowed to, and that eats at a team's core. Fast, because in the NFL, where seasons live and die on chemistry, cohesion, and belief, you can't afford a crack in the foundation. And the Browns? Their foundation was splitting in real time. So, what did Stefanski do? He caved. Finally, belatedly, publicly, he gave the people what they wanted, but not before the situation became a dumpster fire. And now, all eyes are on that one game, the debut. The moment we find out if the Shedeur hype is prophecy or fantasy. Let's be honest with ourselves. This isn't going to be just a football game. It's going to be a reckoning. The crowd's going to be nuclear. Every snap, every throw, every misstep, magnified. Because when a fan base waits this long, they don't just want flashes of greatness. They want fireworks. But here's the thing. Shedeur is used to pressure. This is a guy who's had a camera in his face since he was 12, headlines with his name by 16, and carried the weight of Coach Prime's son into every single college stadium he stepped into. Pressure doesn't crack him. It fuels him. And let's talk about what he brings to the field. Because the kid isn't just about vibes. We're talking laser-accurate short throws, mid-range passes with zip and timing, mobility that'll keep defenders guessing, and most of all, composure. He doesn't panic, doesn't force things, doesn't scramble like a chicken when the pocket collapses. He reads, he resets, he reacts. That alone, it's something Cleveland hasn't seen in years. So, What happens when he gets that first touchdown? When the crowd loses its mind? When the sideline starts believing again? You better believe that locker room shifts overnight. Veterans will buy in. The offense will loosen up. The defense, they'll play harder because momentum matters. That's the ripple effect of a leader who actually leads. And if Stefanski can swallow his pride long enough to support this new QB1 fully, give him reps, tailor the scheme to his strengths, stop treating him like a fragile experiment, then maybe this season isn't a wash. Maybe it's the start of something real. Because look, we've seen this story before, just not here, not in Cleveland, not with this fan base, not with this much pain in the rear-view mirror. But that's what makes it beautiful. If Shedeur succeeds, if he becomes a quarterback this city has been dreaming about since before streaming TV, then it won't just be about stats. It'll be about healing. It'll be about the Browns no longer being the punchline. It'll be about kids in Cleveland wanting his jersey instead of Mahomes or Burrows. It'll be about hope finally materializing into something you can see. And if he fails, well, then the franchise will have no one left to blame but itself, because they waited too long. They hesitated. They doubled down on mediocrity. And they almost burned the whole house down before letting the new architect take over. But now it's his. The team, the spotlight, the pressure, the narrative, all his. And if he's really the leader so many believe he is, he's going to run with it and never look back. So what happens next? That depends on Shedeur, but also on Stefanski, on the front office, on the city of Cleveland. This isn't just about giving him the job. It's about building around him, protecting him, believing in him before the scoreboard confirms it, because this franchise has a chance, a real one. And if they blow it this time, the fans won't be chanting names. They'll be demanding resignations. So buckle up, because when Shedeur Sanders takes that first snap in a Browns uniform, not just in practice, not just in preseason, but in the real spotlight, it won't just be a new chapter. It'll be a reboot. What's happening in Cleveland right now? It's not just a quarterback switch. It's not just a rookie gets a shot moment. It's a full-blown identity crisis. And the entire league is watching to see if the Browns will finally do the one thing they refused to do for decades. Change. Let's talk legacy. Because for the Cleveland Browns, that legacy is complicated. This is a franchise built on heartbreak, built on blown leads, on quarterbacks whose names were forgotten faster than the jersey sales stopped. They've cycled through more franchise guys than a reality dating show. Tim Couch, Brady Quinn, Johnny Manziel, Deshaun Kaiser, Baker Mayfield. The list reads like a graveyard of hype and heartbreak. And every single time, there was a moment where fans thought, this could be it. Spoiler alert, it never was. So when Shedeur Sanders got drafted, there was hope, but not blind hope, cautious hope, the kind that knows the pain of trusting too early. And that's what makes this current moment so seismic. Because for once, the city knows it has something special. And the fans, they aren't just hoping, they're demanding, they're fighting for it. They're not begging for a win, they're calling for accountability. When was the last time a fan base forced a coaching staff to change course midseason? This isn't just crowd noise. This is a movement, and you could feel it bubbling for weeks. Every time Flacco overthrew a check down, every time Gabriel tossed a pick, every time the Browns trotted out yet another conservative game plan and walked away with a humiliating L, the fans were watching, the players were watching, and most importantly, Shedeur was watching. Now, here's the part that people outside Cleveland might not fully understand. This isn't just about talent. It's about timing. It's about symbolism. Shedeur Sanders represents something bigger than stats or scouting reports. He represents a clean break from the ghosts, from the old guard, from the fear of taking risks. Because everything about this kid is new era. His swagger, impeccable. His polish, professional. His work ethic, documented. And yeah, he's the son of Deion Sanders. But he's never ridden that name. He's built his own, step by step, drive by drive, interview by interview. He didn't just inherit expectations. He outworked them, So now the Browns finally, mercifully, have a quarterback who not only looks apart but gets apart. He understands the pressure, the history, the stakes, and you get the sense that he doesn't just want to play football. He wants to rewrite the entire narrative. So what happens next? That first start, that first real game. Here's what's at stake. Stefanski's job, the locker room's trust, the fan base's fragile belief in this organization, and maybe, just maybe, the franchise's future. No pressure, right? But you get the feeling Shedeur isn't fazed. Not because he's arrogant, but because he's been training for this moment since high school. He's played on national TV. He's handled media pressure. He's been doubted, hyped, written off, and written about. And still, he keeps showing up. Calm, ready, unshaken. Because here's the truth no one in the Browns front office wanted to say out loud. They need him more than he needs them. Without Shedeur, this season is already lost. With him, it's something. A chance, a story, a spark. That's the power of a real QB1. They don't just change the playbook. They change the temperature of the entire franchise. They make teammates believe harder. Coaches coach braver. Fans cheer louder. They give meaning to every drive. That's what Cleveland's been missing for years. Not just skill, but soul. And now, for the first time in a long time, that soul is back in a number 2 jersey with Sanders on back and every eye in the NFL watching. And if you think that pressure might crack him, think again. Shedeur isn't the kind of quarterback you wait to develop. He's the kind of quarterback you build around. So what happens if he wins his debut? You want to talk headlines? Sanders saves season. QB1 for real. Cleveland finally gets it right. The energy in the city will be nuclear. The locker room will be euphoric. And Stefanski? He'll be saved by the very player he almost buried. But what if he loses? Let's be real. The leash will be long. Because the fans aren't expecting perfection. They're expecting growth. A spark. A rhythm. A reason to believe again. One touchdown could mean more than an entire win. One great drive could buy the coaching staff weeks of goodwill. That's the beautiful thing about potential. It's like credit. You don't need to cash it all in at once. You just have to show you're worth the investment. And Shedeur, he's already banked half the trust. Now, he just needs to pay it off on the field. Let's take a second to imagine it. Game on the line. 2 minutes left. Browns down 4. Shedeur in shotgun. The crowd's chanting. The defense is rattled. And he calmly calls out the blitz. Shift protection. Takes a snap. Boom. He steps into the moment like he's been doing it his whole life. Because he has. And that moment, that could be the beginning. The moment Cleveland finally gets their guy. Not a stopgap. Not a placeholder. Not a let's see what happens. A real leader. A real franchise quarterback. And maybe, just maybe, the face of a team finally ready to stop reliving the past and start rewriting their future. So where does this story go next? That depends on the Browns. Will they give Shedeur the support he needs? Will they build a system around him instead of stuffing him into the system they already have? Will they trust the momentum instead of smothering it with fear? If they do, this might be the most important decision the franchise has made since they were reestablished in 1999. Because this isn't just about a rookie QB. It's about changing the cycle, ending the carousel, turning a franchise that's been synonymous with failure into a destination for the first time in modern memory. And at the heart of it all, Shedeur Sanders. Calm, steady, ready, poised to take the snap that could change everything. Cleveland has been holding onto broken dreams for decades. This city has clung to flashes, brief moment of promise, only to watch them crumble under bad coaching, toxic locker rooms, or quarterbacks who just couldn't carry the weight. But this feels different. This feels like something finally clicking into place. And here's the twist. It didn't happen because the front office had some genius vision. It happened because the fans forced their hand, because the players whispered, because the losses piled up like unpaid bills, because Shedeur Sanders kept showing up with quiet confidence, daring the team to notice what everyone else already saw. He's ready. And now that he's been named the starter, the mood in Cleveland has shifted. Not cautiously, not skeptically, radically. The same team that looked like a slow-motion car crash in Week 3 now feels electric. The same offense that couldn't buy a first down is suddenly watchable. And the same fans who were calling for Stefanski's head are now peeking over the horizon and asking, what if this is the guy? What if we stop being the punchline? What if this is our Burrow moment, our Mahomes moment, our finally moment? It's not just hope, it's swagger. A citywide posture shift, like Cleveland collectively straightened its back and said, we're not cursed, we've just been waiting. And Shedeur, he's not overwhelmed by the pressure. He's inviting it. He's nodding at it like an old friend. This isn't a man hoping to survive his debut. This is a man expecting to lead, to elevate, to do what every other guy before him couldn't do in a Browns jersey. Win and keep winning. We're on the edge of something. Folks, this is a kind of storyline that turns into a 30 for 30. The kind of season you remember forever, whether it ends in glory or heartbreak. So sit tight, because the Browns just handed the keys to a guy who's been manifesting this moment since Pop Warner. The city's watching. The league is watching. And every single snap from here on out is history in the making. If you're here for the long ride, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop your prediction in the comments. Because Shedeur's story, it's just getting started.